Enter the car.
Babe, what happened?
Let me tell you about the day destiny became a driver. I was there when the car door swung open, when recognition struck like thunder in dry season. My husband, Obiora, stood frozen on the roadside, his mouth hanging open, as if he had swallowed his own tongue. The woman beside him, Ifedayo, young and bright like new money, clutched his arm tighter, not yet understanding. But she would learn. Enter the car, I said, my voice calm as still water before a storm. Through my mirror, I watched truth dawn on his face slowly, like sunrise revealing what darkness had hidden. His eyes met mine, and I saw fear bloom there like hibiscus at dawn. Good. Fear meant he finally understood something. His hand trembled on the door handle. Ifedayo looked between us, confusion painting her pretty face with questions. Obiora, she whispered, her voice small. What is wrong? Is this our driver? Then she saw it, my wedding ring still golden on my finger after everything. She saw the way I looked at him, and her face changed like weather. Isn't that your wife? The silence that followed could have drowned the world. I watched them through my mirror, calculating their choices like merchants count coins. Cancel this ride? Wait another hour in the Friday evening chaos of Lagos traffic? Face me now or never face me at all? But the choice was already written in the dust before they knew it. You requested a ride to Abuja, I said calmly, though my heart beat like talking drums. 6 hours, 2 passengers, long distance. My voice carried no anger, only the certainty of rain in rainy season. I am the only driver who accepted, the only one willing to make this journey tonight. Obiora's jaw clenched. I knew that look, pride wrestling with panic like wrestlers at a festival. He could not back down, not before her, not when he had built himself up as the man who controlled everything. The road is long, I continued, adjusting my mirror to see both their faces clearly. And this road has a way of telling truth. Ifedayo shifted uncomfortably, sensing something wrong, though she could not name it. Good instincts, that girl. She just trusted them too late. They climbed inside. What other choice remained? Pride makes men foolish, and Obiora was nothing if not proud. The doors closed with the finality of a coffin lid. Click, click. 2 sounds like judgment being sealed with red clay. I heard their seatbelts fasten, heard their breathing quick and shallow like rabbits sensing the snake. The car filled with tension so thick you could cut it with a machete and serve it on a plate. I pulled onto the expressway smoothly, heading north toward Abuja. 6 hours and 12 minutes, my phone whispered. 6 hours and 12 minutes trapped together in this moving confessional. The city lights of Lagos blurred past us like memories dissolving. Neither of them spoke, neither dared. My mind drifted backward, not to anger. Anger was too small, too hot, too quick. But to memory, to the place where this story truly began, long before today. This is not where my marriage broke, I said softly, more to the road than to them. It broke long before this day. Once I knew what real love tasted like. I held it in my hands like palm wine fresh from the tree, sweet and strong and true. My first husband, Nduka, loved me the way our grandmothers spoke of love in their stories, fully, without counting cost, without playing games. We met when I was 23, working as a secretary in Surulere. He came to deliver documents and smiled at me, and the world shifted like tectonic plates finding new ground. Everything before that moment had been blurry, unfocused, waiting. We courted for 1 year under my mother's watchful eyes, married in a small ceremony with family who believed in forever. For 5 beautiful years, we built a life like ants build their kingdoms, grain by grain, day by day, with purpose. 2 daughters arrived, Chiamaka and Adaeze, born like blessings we did not know we had been praying for. Nduka would dance with them in our sitting room, 1 daughter in each arm, singing village songs that made them laugh before they understood the words. Those were sacred days. Days when I believed love was as permanent as the baobab tree, as unbreakable as iron. I was wrong about permanence, but not wrong about love itself. The river took him on a Tuesday morning. Not a real river, though water and road are the same in the end. Both carry life forward, both can sweep it away without warning or mercy. It was the Benin-Ori Expressway. A fuel tanker lost control, jackknifed across 3 lanes. Nduka never saw it coming, they said. The police told me he did not suffer. They told me it was instant, like snuffing a candle. They told me many things meant to bring comfort, but comfort is impossible when your heart has been torn from your chest while it still beats. I was 29 years old, a widow with 2 daughters, aged 5, who asked questions sharper than any knife. Where did Papa go? Adaize asked, her eyes too wide, too trusting. Can we visit him in this heaven place? Chiamaka wondered, hope shining in her face like moonlight on water. I told her he went to be with the ancestors. I told her he was watching over us from the spirit world. I told her the lies we tell children to shield them from the cruelty of endings. The river, the road had taken him, and I stood on the shore, drowning in air. But I did not break. Mark this part carefully. I did not shatter like clay pot dropped on concrete. I worked 2 jobs, secretary by day, selling provisions in the evening market when the sun grew kind. My mother helped when her own strength allowed, watching the girls when I had to work late, ensuring they reached school when exhaustion pulled at my bones like weights. The girls grew anyway, like plantain trees reaching for sun despite rocky soil. Chiamaka became fire and passion, questioning everything. Adaize became water and wisdom, thinking 3 steps ahead like a chess master. They were my pride. They were the reason I rose each morning when grief whispered, stay in bed, stay in darkness, stay in yesterday. But even with my daughter's laughter filling our small flat in Yaba, even with my mother's steady presence, even though I kept us afloat financially like a swimmer refusing to sink, there remained a hole. A husband-shaped hole that no amount of work or mothering could fill. I missed having a partner to share dawn and dusk with. I missed being chosen. I missed being a wife. Loneliness returned each night like mosquitoes at sunset, persistent and draining. Then came Obiora, speaking gently like rain on a tin roof. I met him at a church harvest celebration my mother insisted I attend. You cannot just work and parent and do nothing else, she said, adjusting her head tie with the authority of mothers everywhere. Life is for the living. Obiora was helping arrange chairs when I arrived, his movements efficient, confident. When he laughed at someone's joke, his whole face opened like a door to sunlight. My mother, meddlesome and loving in equal measure, ensured we stood together in the food line. This is Obiora. He works as an accountant. He is single and responsible, she announced like a market woman hawking her best yams. I wanted to disappear into the ground, but Obiora simply smiled. Your mother means well, he said, voice warm. Mine does the same thing. We talked through the afternoon about ordinary things, his work with numbers, my daughters, his family in Enugu, my dreams deferred. He asked about Nduka without flinching, without jealousy of a ghost. You must have loved him deeply, he said. And I felt something stir, not love yet, but possibility, perhaps hope. He promised quietly to be steady, to be present, to protect. We married 8 months later at the Ikoyi registry, a simple ceremony with my mother and the girls as witnesses. The girls wore matching Ankara dresses. I wore cream lace I found at Bolugu Market. It was not the wedding I had with Nduka, but then Obiola was not Nduka, and I had accepted that lightning does not strike the same place twice. I wanted only steady love, good love, love that would endure like Iroko wood. But I received none of these. The warning signs appeared like cracks in a wall, small at first, easy to ignore. Our wedding night, Obiora was too tired for intimacy. I understood. We were not children anymore. But the next night was the same, and the next. Work stress, he said when I reached for him. Big audit coming, give me time. Time stretched like rubber band pulled too far. Weeks became months. Physical distance became emotional distance too. Obiora stopped asking about my day, stopped sharing his own stories. He would eat dinner without tasting, then vanish into the spare room he claimed as home office. Report to finish, he would say, meeting to prepare for. The girls noticed. Of course they noticed. They had lived with real love before. They knew what marriage should look like. And this was not it. 6 months after our wedding, Obiora stopped coming home at all. The excuses smelled like lies wrapped in expensive paper. Working late on year-end accounts, drinks with clients ran long, too tired to drive safely, phone battery died, did not want to wake you. Each excuse was polished, delivered with the confidence of a practiced storyteller. But my nose was not blocked. My eyes were not closed. Something was wrong, rotting like fruit left too long in the sun. I wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that my husband told truth. But women carry intuition with our bones like our grandmothers carried water on their heads. Balanced, setting, aware of every shifting weight. The girls stopped asking for him at dinner, stopped expecting him at breakfast, stopped mentioning his name except in past tense as if he had already become a memory instead of a man living in our house. Mama, why are you still with him? Chiamaka asked one evening, her 12-year-old wisdom cutting through my defenses like a sharp knife through okra. He is your husband, I replied weakly, the words tasting like ash. So what? She challenged. Papa was your husband and he loved us. He loved us. This man just exists here sometimes and not even in a good way. She was right. God and all the ancestors knew she was right. Then the illness came like armed robbers in the night, stealing what remained of my illusions. I found out on a Wednesday afternoon in October at the teaching hospital in Yaba. I had been tired for months, but blamed it on working too much. Then came weight loss I did not try for, which felt like blessing at first. My clothes fitting better, my body cooperating for once. But then the pain arrived. Dull, persistent, living in my belly like something with teeth. My mother forced me to the doctor. Something is wrong. I know my daughter, she said with the certainty of women who birth you and therefore know your body's language better than you do. The doctor ran tests. Blood work, scans, more scans, then referral to a specialist who sat me down in her office, Dr. Adeyemi, kind-faced with grey threading her braids, and spoke the words that changed everything. Chiamaka, I am sorry. The tests show stage 4 ovarian cancer. Stage 4. The words hung in air like smoke that would not clear. Stage 4 meant the cancer had traveled, spreading like gossip through a village. Stage 4 meant no cure, only management. Stage 4 meant I was dying. I told Obiora 3 days later when he finally came home to shower and change. I expected shock, comfort, partnership. Instead, he stared at me blankly, then said, "That is terrible," and walked out. Just walked out. Abandonment, I learned that evening, is always a choice. 2 days after Obiora left me with my death sentence, I met an elder at a crossroads. Literally, the junction where Habat Makaloi Way meets the bridge, where traders sell everything and nothing, where Lagos breathes its chaotic breath. I had stopped to buy oranges, my body too weak to walk far, when an old woman approached. She wore white from head to toe, her head wrapped tight in the old style, her eyes clear despite her age like water from a deep well. "Nwanyoma," she called me. Beautiful woman. I see your burden. I should have walked away. Lagos is full of prophets and frauds selling miracles for money. But something made me stop. Perhaps it was brief. Perhaps it was desperation. Perhaps it was simply that she called me beautiful when I felt like death walking. "Your husband," she said, not asking, just knowing. "He has broken his vows." I nodded, tears coming without permission. "Listen carefully," the elder said, her voice like ancient drums. "A man who breaks vows on the road will lose his way. Not immediately, not loudly, but thoroughly. The road remembers betrayal." She touched my hand once, her palm dry and warm. Then she was gone, disappeared into the Lagos crowd like smoke, like spirit, like truth spoken then released. I stood there holding my oranges, her words echoing, "The road remembers." I found the proof on a Friday morning when Obiora came home to shower. His routine now predictable as sunrise. While water ran in the bathroom, his phone sat on our bedside table, charging. I had never been the snooping type. With Nduka, I never needed to be. But with Obiora, every instinct screamed that something lived in shadows. The phone was locked, but I knew him, knew how his mind worked in patterns. I tried his birthday. Wrong. The girl's birthday. Wrong. Then, almost laughing at the irony, I tried our wedding date. The phone opened like a confession box. The most recent messages were from a contact saved as IF. My heart became talking drums as I opened the thread. Messages about weekend plans, sweet words, arrangements for our trip to Abuja, photos of a young woman, Ifedayo, I learnt later from other messages, smiling, bright-eyed, everything I was not, young, unburdened, uncomplicated, not dying. I did not cry. This is important. I did not shed one tear. I simply took screenshots, sending them to my own phone like a lawyer gathering evidence. Then I replaced his phone exactly where it had been. By the time Obiora emerged, smelling of my soap, wearing cologne I had bought him, I sat at the kitchen table, my face neutral as Switzerland. When he left, I stared at those screenshots until they burned into my brain like hot iron on skin. Dallas, this weekend, Friday evening, 6 o'clock. My husband and his mistress planning romance while his wife prepared for death. But I did not cry. I did something better. I made a plan. Stillness became my weapon. Strategy became my prayer. I did not confront Obiora, did not call Ifedayo to curse her or inform her what kind of man warmed her bed, did not tell my mother or the girls or anyone who might try to talk me out of what was forming in my mind like clay taking shape on a potter's wheel. I simply prepared, quietly, carefully, like spider spinning web in darkness. I signed up to become a rideshare driver, something Obiora would never imagine, never expect. The app approved me in 2 days. I studied his messages like students studying for exams, learning their exact plans. Friday, 6 o'clock. Pick up at Ifedayo's apartment in Ikeja. Destination Abuja. 6 hours trapped together in a car. 6 hours on the road that remembers betrayal. The road where the elder said a man who breaks vows on the road will lose his way. I was not seeking revenge. Revenge is hot, loud, temporary, like pepper soup burning your tongue. No, I was seeking something deeper. Completion, closure, truth spoken aloud on a road that would witness it. I was going to make them see me, really see me. Make them sit with what they had done for 6 uninterrupted hours. No escape, no excuses, no hiding. Just them, me, and the road stretching north like a path to judgment. Friday came. I was ready. On Friday afternoon, I dropped the girls at my mother's house in Surulere. I have something important to do, I told her, an errand that cannot wait. My mother studied my face with eyes that knew me for 37 years. Are you well enough for errands? Your body. My body will manage, I said, which was not quite lie, not quite truth. My body was failing, yes, but my spirit was stronger than it had been in months, filled by purpose like generator powered by petrol. I dressed carefully. Simple black top, jeans, a scarf wrapped around my head, sunglasses despite the evening approaching. Nothing that would make Obiora recognize me immediately. I parked 3 streets from Ifedayo's apartment complex in Ikeja at exactly 5:45 p.m., opened the ride app, set my status to available. My heart beat like djembe drums. My hands trembled slightly. Part of me wanted to turn the car around, go home, forget this plan that seemed born of madness or grief or both. But the larger part, the part that had been disrespected, abandoned, betrayed, that part wanted to see this through to the end. At 5:58 p.m., a ride request appeared on my screen. Pickup location, Ifedayo's address. Destination, Abuja. 2 passengers. This was them. This was fate saying yes to my plan. My finger hovered over accept for 1 heartbeat. 2. Then I pressed it. The trap was set. I started driving towards destiny. I pulled up exactly at 6 p.m., my car idling at the curb like a patient crocodile. Through my rearview mirror, I saw them emerge from the building. Obiora in his casual date clothes, jeans and the blue shirt I had ironed last week before I knew what I knew. Ifedayo in his yellow dress bright as false promises, her arm looped through his like ownership, like belonging, like she had any right. They were laughing, both of them, laughing like people without guilt, without shame, without wives dying slowly at home. They looked happy. They looked like lovers in a Nollywood film heading for their romantic weekend. They had no idea that their film was about to change genres from romance to something else entirely. Something older, something with consequences. Obiora checked the license plate against his phone app, confirming the match. He nodded to Ifedayo. They walked towards my car, still smiling, still innocent in their guilt. My hand tightened on the steering wheel. This was the moment. The door would open and everything would change, like water becoming ice, like day becoming night, like secrets becoming public. Malik reached for the back door handle. I adjusted my rearview mirror one final time, positioning it to capture both their faces perfectly. The door opened. Our eyes met in the mirror. I pulled down my sunglasses just enough. Time stopped. The universe held its breath. Then I smiled. "Enter," I said calmly, as if I was just any driver greeting any passengers. But my voice must have carried something, recognition or power or simple truth, because Obiora froze completely, his hand still on the door handle, his mouth opening then closing like fish pulled from water, his face draining of color until he looked grey as harmattan dust. "Chiamaka," he whispered. Just my name, but it sounded like question and accusation and disbelief all mixed in like bitter medicine. "That is correct," I replied, my voice pleasant, professional. "Chiamaka Okonkwo, your wife, the one you are still legally married to, the one dying of cancer while you plan romantic getaways." I let that sit in the air between us like smoke. Ifedayo looked between us, confusion painting her face, then slowly transforming into something else. Understanding, horror, reality crashing through fantasy like masquerade through market crowd. "This is your wife," she said, her voice climbing 3 octaves. "Obiora, you said you were separated. You said divorce was coming." "Oh," I said, raising my left hand so they both could see the gold band still circling my finger. "Still married? Still wearing my ring? Are you wearing yours, husband?" His hand went instinctively to his ring finger. Empty, of course. Empty as his vows. The mistress sensed danger now. Good, she should. She stood at the crossroads without knowing it, and crossroads are never safe places in our stories. "I am not entering this car," Ifedayo said, her voice sharp now, defensive. "Obiora, call another driver. This is crazy." "Please do," I said, shrugging, like it cost me nothing. "But you should know, I am the only driver who accepted your ride request. Friday evening, everyone leaving Lagos for weekend. Long distance trips?" I shook my head. "Not popular. You cancel me, you wait another hour. Maybe 2, maybe longer." I watched understanding move across both their faces like shadow moving across ground. The mathematics of inconvenience versus humiliation. The weighing of time against discomfort. And I knew with the certainty of woman who had lived with this man for 8 months, exactly what they would choose. Men like Obiora always choose convenience, always choose the path requiring least courage. "Get in," he told Ifedayo, his voice tight. Pride had made his choice for him. Pride could not let him look weak before his mistress, could not let him admit his situation was more complicated than he had painted it. Ifedayo hesitated, but obeyed. They climbed in, sitting as far from each other as the back seat allowed, as if distance could protect them from what was coming. I heard seatbelts click, saw them in my mirror trying to disappear into the leather. "Good," I said, starting the engine. "Now we can begin." The road ahead stretched like unwinding thread. 6 hours to Abuja, 6 hours on the road that remembers betrayal. We drove in silence heavy as wet sand. The car hummed its mechanical song. The road unrolled before us like carpet being laid for ceremony. And I felt something shift in the air, something old awakening. We passed through Ikeja, through the chaotic symphony of Lagos traffic. Danfo buses swerving, Okada riders darting like fish through coral. The city releasing us slowly, reluctantly. Then the city began to thin. Buildings gave way to trees. Concrete surrendered to red earth. We passed a forest thick with Iroko trees standing like sentries, like witnesses, like judges waiting for testimony. I glanced at the mirror. Obiora stared out the window, jaw clenched, refusing to meet my eyes. Ifedayo sat rigid, her earlier brightness dimmed like lamp running out of oil. Then came water, a river paralleling the expressway, its surface catching moonlight like scattered coins. The river that takes and gives, that witnesses all journeys, that remembers everything water touches. The elder's words returned to me like prayer, like prophecy. The road remembers betrayal. And I felt it then, felt the road becoming more than asphalt, more than geography, felt it becoming stage, becoming courtroom, becoming the place where truth must be spoken aloud. Ahead, I saw the crossroads, the junction where highways meet and diverge, where choices become permanent. Obiora saw it too. I watched his reflection in the mirror, watched something like panic begin to bloom in his eyes. He was beginning to understand, finally. The road was judging him. Chiamaka, Obiora's voice broke the silence like stone thrown through glass. Please, we need to talk about this. Now you want to talk? I kept my eyes on the road, my voice level as horizon. When I told you I had cancer, you walked out. When I tried to discuss our marriage, you had meetings. When I asked if you loved me, you left. But now, trapped in this car, suddenly you want to talk? I made mistakes, he said, and I heard desperation creeping into his voice like water on that door. I was confused, scared. I did not know how to handle my dying. I finished for him. You do not know how to handle your wife dying, so you found a woman who was not dying? Simpler that way, Abi. Ifedayo made a small sound, something between gasp and sob. You told me you were separated. You said your marriage was over. You said... He lied, I said simply. Men like Obiora lie like fish swim, naturally, without thinking. I am sorry, Obiora said, and I heard tears in his voice. Chiamaka, I am sorry. I was wicked. I was your husband, I interrupted, and now my voice carried weight like iron, like judgment. You stood before God and witnesses and promised, in sickness and in health. Those were your words, Obiora, your vows. We reached the crossroads. I slowed the car. Time felt thick, significant. This man, I said to the road, to the night, to whatever was listening, breaks vows on sickness and in truth. Something happened at the crossroads. Something I cannot fully explain, but I know I felt, and I know Obiora felt too. The air changed, became charged like air before thunderstorm. The car seemed to pass through something invisible, something that whispered against skin, like breath, like warning, like seal being pressed into wax. In our folktales, naming has power. Speaking truth aloud at crossroads where paths meet and spirits listen, this has consequences. Words become binding. Judgments become fate. I named what he had done. Broke vows, abandoned his sick wife, lied to his mistress, chose convenient over character. I named it all clearly, calmly, for the road to hear and remember. Obiora made something like something breaking inside him. A whimper or a recognition or the sound a man makes when he realizes he has lost something that cannot be retrieved. Not his wife, not his mistress, something deeper, something essential. In the mirror, I saw his face change, saw something leave him like air leaving a balloon, like spirit leaving body. Not death, nothing so dramatic, but something departed. The light in his eyes dimmed, the confidence in his bearing collapsed. He seemed suddenly smaller, older, hollow, like a clay pot beautiful on outside but empty within, like a man who had bet everything on a game and lost. We passed through the crossroads. The moment passed, but moments like that do not truly pass. They echo, they follow, they become the story people tell later, when they try to explain what happened to a man who lost his way. We reached Abuja as dawn was breaking, painting the sky colors that promised new beginnings for some, endings for others. I pulled up to the hotel address saved in Obiora's phone, the same hotel where they planned to spend their romantic weekend in a bed built on lies. We have arrived, I said, my voice carrying no triumph, no bitterness, only completion, finality, the closing of a circle. Ifedayo opened her door immediately, practically falling out in her haste to escape. She did not look at Obiora, did not say goodbye or curse him or slap him like women do in films. She simply walked quickly, her yellow dress disappearing into the hotel lobby, into her own story, which I hoped would teach her to ask better questions next time. Obiora sat frozen in the back seat. I watched him in my mirror, this man I had married hoping for partnership, for love, for steady companionship in my remaining years. This man who could not even pretend to care when death came calling. Chiamaka, Obiora reached forward as if to touch my shoulder. I moved slightly away. Do not, I said quietly. You have no right to touch me anymore. You gave up that right when you walked out, when you chose her over your vows, when you abandoned me to die alone. I am sorry, he said again, but the words fell flat. Sorry could not rewrite the past, could not unbreak what he had shattered. I know, I said, but sorry does not return time, does it? You are sorry now. Where were you when I needed you? He had no answer. Men like him never do. He climbed out of the car slowly, like old man with bones that hurt. I stood there on the pavement, looking lost, looking small. I drove away without looking back. This is what happened to Obiora after that journey. People noticed changes immediately, though they could not name what had changed exactly. His smile, which used to light up rooms, now seemed painted on, false, not reaching his eyes. His confidence, that easy certainty he carried like expensive cologne, evaporated like morning mist. At work, he made mistakes. Simple calculations wrong, reports filed late, clients lost to carelessness. His bosses, who once praised his sharp mind, now looked at him with disappointment, with doubt, with the beginning of dismissal. Women who once found him attractive now sensed something off about him, something hollow, something missing. Relationships started but never deepened. He would date for weeks, then suddenly women would lose interest, would ghost him, would tell friends, I don't know what it is, but something about him feels empty. He tried changing jobs, changing churches, changing neighborhoods, but the thing that had left him at that crossroads, whatever it was, stayed gone. People began to whisper, the way communities always do when someone's fortune changes mysteriously. Something happened to Obiora, something on a journey, something on a road. Some said he was cursed, others said karma had found him. The Christian God was judging him. The traditionalists said the ancestors had withdrawn their favor. Everyone had theories, but I knew the truth. A man who breaks vows on the road will lose his way. Not immediately, not loudly, but thoroughly. The road had remembered, and Obiora would never find his way back. And me? I returned to Lagos that same evening, tired but strangely light, like a person who has set down heavy load after carrying it many kilometers. The cancer continued its work in my body. This story does not end with miraculous healing because that would be unhonest, and I have told you only truth. But something else healed, something in my spirit that had been wounded not by disease but by betrayal, by disrespect, by being made to feel worthless by a man who had promised to honor me. I gathered my daughters and told them everything, not the details that would hurt unnecessarily, but the truth that would teach necessarily. Your stepfather and I are finished, not because of my sickness, but because he could not keep his vows. Remember this, a person's character is revealed not in good times, but in hard times. When things get difficult, you see who people are. Chiamaka, my fire daughter, wanted to curse him. Adeze, my water daughter, simply nodded with understanding beyond her years. I lived 4 more months, not the 3 months the doctor predicted, but 4, and I lived them fully, peacefully, with dignity intact. I spent mornings with my daughters, teaching them things they would need after I was gone. I spent afternoons with my mother, thanking her for everything she had been and continued to be. And sometimes I drove to the river, not the road, but the actual river near Badagry, where water meets sand. I sat there watching water flow endlessly, carrying everything forward, never carrying anything back. I made my peace, not with Obiora, with life, with death, with the journey. 1 week before I passed, my mother asked me, do you regret what you did, the drive to Abuja, using your strength that way? I thought carefully before answering, because last words should be true words. No, Mama, I do not regret it. I needed to be seen, to be acknowledged, to name what was done to me. Women like me were taught to suffer in silence, to forgive without accountability, to die with grace, while those who hurt us live without consequence. But that was not grace, what you did, my mother said gently. That was something else. It was justice, Mama. Not loud justice, not violent justice, not revenge, but justice nonetheless. The road witnessed what he did, and the road remembered. I just facilitated the meeting. She held my hand, understanding passing between us without more words. I closed my eyes, and in my mind I returned to that crossroads, the place where I named Obiora's betrayal aloud, where I felt something ancient and powerful listening, where something was taken from a man who took without giving, who promised without keeping, who broke sacred vows. I had no bitterness in my heart. I had released anger like bird from cage, watching it fly away and not return. What remained was simply truth spoken and heard. The lesson was clear. A woman who walks away with truth leaves consequences behind her. These consequences are not hers to carry. They belong to those who earned them. Let me leave you with this, the way elders leave wisdom for those who come after. Not all justice is loud. Some justice moves quietly, like river wearing down stone. Some justice follows a man like shadow, patient and permanent. Some justice arrives not with thunder, but with silence. The silence of respect withdrawn, of community trust evaporated, of internal compass broken beyond repair. Obiora did not lose his life that day on the road to Abuja. He lost something more fundamental, his way. And a man without a way is more lost than a man without a destination. For you listening to this story, sitting comfortably in your own life with your own secrets and choices, remember that roads remember. Remember that vows spoken have weight. Remember that how you treat people in their weakness reveals your true character more than how you treat them in their strength. Remember that there are witnesses to every breaking of trust. If not human witnesses, then spiritual ones. If not today's consequences, then tomorrow's. My name was Chiamaka. I was a wife twice. Once to a man who honored vows, once to a man who did not. I was a mother to daughters I loved fiercer than life itself. I was a woman who was betrayed, who was dying, but who refused to die unseen. I spoke my truth on a road that listens, and the road answered. Would you have done the same? Would you have confronted, or would you have let the road decide? What lesson does this story teach your own life? These questions are yours to answer. I have told you what happened. How you carry this story forward, that is your portion. Not all justice is loud. Some follows a man forever. Would you have confronted him or let the road decide? What lesson did this story teach you?